Hey, everybody. We're back with the Wall to Wall Country Show right here on Penn's Peak Radio. And hanging out with you, of course, is me, Casey, and featuring another great artist here on the show, which we do each and every week. So excited to have this guy on board. A little bit out of the realm of what this guy's up to, and a very interesting thing that you guys probably don't know about him. You've already heard this guy. You just may not realize it. So I'm very excited to get into a deep conversation with this dude. This guy here, Mr. Ryan Griffin. Hey, Ryan, how are you?
Hey, what's up? How you doing?
I am fine, and I appreciate you taking time out of your crazy busy schedule at the end of August here to, really kind of get into some of your music and stuff. I'm so excited about what you have out there and what you got going on.
Thank you. Me too. I'm pumped to have it out.
But what I want to do is kind of give a little insight to people. As I mentioned in my intro, they may have already heard something from you. They just don't realize it. A little background about who Ryan Griffin is, where he kind of came from and how he got to the place he's at right now.
Yeah, I grew up, I'm a Florida boy. I've been in Nashville and Tennessee for about a little over 10 years, came here and went to school and whatnot at Belmont. But my roots are in Florida, and I grew up there, and, country music was kind of the bedstone of my upbringing. My mom loved George Strait and Vince Gill, and so, vocalists have always been a huge influence on me from a young age. Even, when you're the youngest of three boys, you don't really get to pick what you listen to on the radio when you're in the station wagon going to soccer practice and stuff. But, my brothers loved country music, and so that was really the foundation of where I came from. And then, middle school, I got my little boom box, had my 3 CDs in it, and I'm sitting on my bed listening to, just blasting it, listening to Brian McKnight and Usher and Casey and JoJo, and you fill in the blank, and it's like, that's kind of where my influences have stemmed from. That's when I finally got to experience music for myself and go to the record store and buy them. This was back in the day. But anyway, so then moved up to Belmont and just been continuing to pursue my career. Started, in school and started writing and just building relationships. And then from there, signed a pub deal once I got out of college, and really started to hone the craft of writing and what I wanted my sound to be like.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, it's just been a journey of continuing to build relationships, continuing to play shows, continuing to kind of hone your sound and figure out what you want to say and how you want to say it and what voice you want to say it in,
mm-hmm.
and all that. So that's where, and that brings us to Sake of the Summer, and that's my first EP that I've put out, and I was really intentional with being careful with the first music I put out, because I feel like that's a big step. It's what represents you and how you represent yourself to the world. So
mm-hmm.
I'm really proud of it.
Now, you've had, though, some success as just a songwriter before you became an artist in front of the mic. You are the guy who put words on paper or pen to paper, however you want to word it. And I'm excited to hear a little bit about that story, because I have to say, I love her and I love her music. So I'm going to let you tell the story about what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's so funny. When I moved to Nashville, I wanted to be a singer and an artist. Writing was kind of secondary.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but what I learned really quick was that in order to be an artist and get the really good songs, you kind of have to write them yourself, unless you're Keith Urban, and so, unless you're like one of the big artists, you don't get the best songs in town. So I learned that really quick at a young age, moving here to college. And so I started writing, and that music has opened so many doors and introduced me to so many different people. And one of those people during my stint of writing, was Kelsea Ballerini.
Mm-hmm.
And she was, just this young 18-year-old girl that just moved to Nashville from Knoxville. And, I wrote at the same publishing house as she did. And, we just were always running into each other and became really good friends. And then our crew just kind of, you get your little classes that you raise up with, it's kind of like high school. Like, you have your classes that you come up with in Nashville. And we were all just kind of part of the same class and had this really good core group of humans and writers and people. And, we were writing, myself and her and Jason Duke, who's another one of my good friends. We were writing that day, and we got finished writing a song and all kind of congregated in this little kitchenette area at the publishing house. And we're just kind of looking at each other like, hey, what do you guys want to do? Well, I don't have anything to do. I don't have anything to do. And so next thing you know, we're all like, hey, let's go write a song together. So it's me and Josh Kerr and Jason Duke and Kelsey, and we literally just sat in this like empty room in this kind of construction zone because it was the only room available at the time. And all sitting Indian style on the floor, just like, pumping out a song and just hanging out, being friends and laughing and joking. And I mean, it probably took us an hour, maybe an hour and a half to write the song, but that's in between laughing and joking and like hanging out. And at the end of it, we all kind of look at each other and we're like, wait, this is a cool song. Like, I think we actually got something here.
Mm-hmm.
And then, next thing you know, Kelsey's cutting a record and that was one of her favorite songs. So it ended up making the record. And then we were so happy to hear when it ended up being her second single. And, it's just the coolest part about that story for me is it's twofold because one, I never came to town thinking I was going to write a song for another artist.
Mm-hmm.
It was never on my radar. And it's such a cool, little feather in the cap or just accomplishment, unexpected. And then the second thing is, and more importantly, was that we're all best friends and had that success together. And it's just incredible to be able to do that and experience that with your best friends.
Right. And I just want people to know you're talking about the song Dibs that she did, which, pretty much gave her recognition.
Yeah. Oh, did I forget to mention that? It's Dibs, guys.
Yeah, the song Dibs, which I love that song. I mean, that had to be kind of a very unique experience to go through the whole process of, just a bunch of folks, hanging out, writing a song and then putting music to it and then her singing it and then putting it out there. And next thing you know, it's chart topping. I mean, that journey had to be like every time it took a step higher, kind of like another pinch me moment, sort of. It was like, slap me. Is this really happening to this song? It's like, oh, now it's doing this. Oh my gosh. Now it's there. It's like, was that crazy?
It was insane. It was such a fun ride. And like I said, to be able to experience that with your best friends. When it went number one, I was actually in Austin, Texas with one of the co-writers. We were playing a charity benefit in Austin for My Life Speaks. And, it went number one as we were standing on stage because it goes Saturday night. You find out if it's going to be number one. Mm-hmm. And we were standing on stage and it got announced that it went number one and we all just went crazy. Like we tried to shut Austin down that night. We had a blast, but it's so much fun to be able to share that, especially your first number one. That's my first number one as a songwriter. And, it's just really cool to be able to experience that with your best friends.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I have to say something, which is kind of interesting. And I will swear to you that I did not see this anywhere else until after I had this thought. Okay, so I know I've read it other places, but I did not read this. I came up with this. I was just thinking about this. When I was listening to your music, especially one or two of your songs for sure, I sat here to myself and I said, man, this kid's got Keith Urban written all over him. He sounds like Keith Urban. He's got that sound. You got that quality, the way you deliver a song and all that kind of stuff. There, at least some of them anyway. And I'm saying this as a compliment, to you. And then later on, I had seen one or two other people make the same comment. In a Twitter feed or a Facebook feed or something. I saw it somewhere and it was ironic because you just mentioned Keith Urban and I was like, man, you really, really do. I mean, if you're going to hang with some big boys, you can hang with him easily.
Oh, appreciate that. That's like the best compliment ever because Keith is, if there were three people like George Strait, Brian McKnight, and Keith Urban, they influenced the music that I make today. And You'll Think of Me, like I'll never forget the first time I heard Keith Urban's You'll Think of Me. Mm-hmm. I was sitting in my driveway getting ready to pull out to go to school when I was in like freshman year of high school or something. And I just remember stopping and sitting there and listening to that song. And there's very few songs that I can think of that I know exactly where I was when I heard it. Mm-hmm. And You'll Think of Me was one of those songs. It like bridged the gap between the kind of pop R&B sensibilities that I've always innately had mm-hmm. and the country that I grew up on. Mm-hmm. So it was like, oh, there is a place for me in this market. I can do this, guys.
Yeah. I honestly think, and we're going to talk about some of your songs off your EP, but I would have left Me Too. I mean, if I just close my eyes and I'm not watching your video or I'm not whatever, I'd close my eyes, and I will bet you if that thing gets out there, people are going to confuse it with Keith Urban a lot and go,
I've heard that, yeah.
That's a Keith
I've definitely heard that.
Yeah, that's a Keith Urban song right there. And I'm like, no, it's not. That's awesome. That's really awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I mean, but it just shows that he's such a huge influence. You know, I would felt along to his songs driving in the car all the time. And, you know, you just pick up some of his inflections and stuff like that. But, yeah, that's definitely a compliment. Thank you.
I really think so. And that one really kind of like set the mark for me. It's funny because you just made a statement too. You were like, wow, I can do this because, you know, your artist, your style, there are artists out there that, you know, you can follow in their footsteps and you can be a force to be reckoned with in the country music industry. And I like the line that I did read in your bio. That's part of it was like, people seem to enjoy it. Maybe I can do this. And I think you can, you know, and I think people are going to enjoy it. And I like your music, and I think you're on the right track. And, you know, whether it's a song that you wrote and you can have that, whether it's a back pocket thing where you're like, well, I really want to be an artist, but I can also write. And if other artists end up doing my music and having success with it, yay for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the biggest compliment as a songwriter is when other artists cut your stuff.
Yeah.
You know, that's a huge, like, I love that. That's a huge pat on the back.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Well, let's talk about your music. Let's circle around and now talk about, you have a brand new EP out. I believe it has 5 songs on it.
Yeah, it does. Yes, okay. Ma'am. It's called Take of the Summer EP, and it's got like a very nostalgic, it was almost like an unintentional nostalgic vibe to it. But once we stumbled upon it, because I've been writing for years and years and years, and one of the songs on it that kind of helped me shape it is Backseats and Burnt CDs, and that was an outside song. I've always had the mentality of you cut the best songs, you know, whether you wrote them or you didn't write them. And I mean, look at the careers of like Jason Aldean and George Strait, and you know, I mean, the list goes on and on and on of people that literally have written like 1 or 2 songs in their career.
Right.
And they've had huge careers. So, you know, Nashville has such a huge songwriting base, and so to ignore that would be kind of silly as an artist. But so Backseats and Burnt CDs was one of those songs that it was the only song on the 5-song EP that I didn't write.
Okay.
But one of my co-writers on Dibs wrote it, and his name's Josh Kerr, and Jordan Reynolds wrote it as well. And just when I heard that song, that was one of those songs, too, kind of like You'll Think of Me, that I can tell you exactly where I was when I first heard it. I was at the listening room downtown Nashville at a club listening to them play Writers Round, and that song just, like, transcended time for me. It stopped time and, like, put me back in my Jeep Cherokee in high school. You know, it was just so cool that music could do that, and that song did it for me. And so I was like, I of course have to release this song.
Yeah.
So it was the like nucleus of the record, of the project. Like, it was what everything else was built around. And, you know, then you go to like Young Love and Sake of the Summer and I Would Have Left Me Too. And all of these songs have like a very nostalgic vein running through them. And I guess that makes sense in a lot of ways because I only write stuff that I can relate to, you know, experiences that I've been through. I'm not very good about writing like, oh, Keith Urban wants this kind of song. And people do it every day in town. And then they write towards that. I'm not very good at that. I have to, like, truly be able to, you know, embrace the experience behind it. So I guess that's kind of where, like, that nostalgic vibe comes from. But it's also very, very just honest and vulnerable. You know, like you mentioned, I Would Have Left Me Too. It doesn't get more vulnerable than that.
Well, you know what surprised me? Backstreets and Burnt CDs, even though it's to me, it's like a summertime anthem. It's a little slower than I would have expected just from the title. It's a little bit not as butt shaking, drinking beer kind of song. I was a little surprised. It's down a notch. It's not as crazy.
It's got kind of that mid-tempo, mellow, layback, vibe. And I mean, I agree with you 100%. You kind of hear that and you're like, oh, it's going to be like this tempo. And I think that's one thing that's so cool about it to me is it's very unexpected.
But I still think it could stand seriously on its own as a summertime anthem, a summertime song. People are going to want to hear it in the summertime at the concert, and they're going to love it. I just think the title just caught me a little off guard. That's all.
Yep. Yeah, I totally get that.
Well, I'll tell you what, listen, in a little bit here, I have to take a quick break. So we're going to come back and we're going to play Backstreets and Backseats and Burnt CDs in just a minute. Real quick, how can people get their hands on their music? If they hear this song coming up right after the break and they're like, wow, I really like it. How do I do it? Give them the first quick, how can they get their hands on your music?
Yeah, go grab it. It's on iTunes. The whole EP is on iTunes. And then if you want to preview it and whatnot, you can go to Spotify.
Okay. Awesome.
It's up there as well.
Well, can you hang in there for a few more minutes, Ryan? I need to pay some bills.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
Awesome. For sure.
And we're going to come back, and you guys are going to have the opportunity to listen off of the Sake of the Summer EP with Ryan Griffin, his tune, Backseats and Burnt CDs. Give it a listen. Might take you by a little bit surprised, but it's a good tune. We'll be right back with Ryan in just a minute, right here on PPR. And back there, you heard Ryan Griffin off of his Sake of the Summer EP that's out there on all the electronic medias. You can get your hands on it. Backseats and Burnt CDs. And I think people are really going to like it. And again, you first hear the title, you think it might be a little rowdy song, but it's actually, and you're right, people can listen to it and kind of get into it. I still think it's a good summer anthem song, though.
Oh, I love that. I love that you get it. It is a summer anthem song. It's intentionally written that way, and it's but it just it gives you that kind of I don't know. When I heard it, it just took me somewhere, and I hope that's what it does for everybody else. Yeah,
and I think it will. Now this EP, like you mentioned, you can get it. Is there going to be hard copies for this EP?
No, I don't think so. I think we're just going to go digital on this one. You can grab it on iTunes or Spotify. Stream it on Spotify. I'd love you if you went and bought it on iTunes, though.
Are you now? You're performing these songs in your tour?
I am. Yeah, we're getting ready to go to Yerington, Nevada here on Friday, which is kind of by Reno, and we're playing a show out there, a festival out there, and it's so much fun getting to play this music out live. And when you cut a record or an EP. It's all music that, I've had this EP and these songs for probably a year and a half. So it just takes the whole process of writing them and then recording them and then getting them out and all that stuff. And it takes about, a year to kind of do all of that. And so I've been writing for the past year and a half since this, writing for the EP. And we just have so many fun summertime jams and just, the music is just continuing to evolve. And mixing this EP with some of the new music, trying it all out on the fans, it's so much fun to see the reaction and, see the music that you've written, that I've written, really translate in the crowd and the audience, and just let people have a good time. So that's a blast. That's
awesome. And I want to mention I know you're down in Nashville, but we're up here in Pennsylvania. And coming up on October 1st, you're going to be fairly close to us, about, I'd say, 2.5 hours, 3 hours, depending on how you get there. You're going to be at Atlantic City at the Garden State County Music Festival. So I just want to throw that out there, that if any of my listening audience here locally in Pennsylvania want to come see you, that's the closest spot that you're going to be nearby.
Oh, I love you for that. Yeah, please come out and see me. It's going to be so much fun. It'll be a blast. It'll be my first time to Atlantic City, so I'm kind of pumped about that.
Nice. And I'm just going to throw this out there, Ryan. We are about 2.5 hours from there. I don't know what your schedule's like anywhere in and around there, but you'd be more than welcome to swing on up here into the Pocono Mountains and hang your hat in our studios here for an impromptu visit. So I'm just going to throw that out there.
Oh, that would be so much fun.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be incredible. If we're driving up there, we should definitely try to plan something like that. I don't know if we're flying or not. I'll have to look into that.
Okay.
But yeah, something we can definitely talk about. That'd be a blast.
Well, and just so you know, if you ever do have where you are including a Pennsylvania venue, or you're a little bit closer, depending on your stops along your tour too. Just so you know, the doors to Penn Speak Radio are always open. All you have to do is reach out to me, and we'll figure out a way to make it work. So let me just throw that out there too.
Thank you.
Awesome.
I appreciate that.
Now let's move on to some of the other tunes that are on the EP. Now this one here is the one that I really think, if you close your eyes, you're going to be taken to a place where it could have potentially been a Keith Urban song. And I'm talking about Would Have Left Me Too. Now there's videos out for some of these. There's a video out for this one, right?
There is. Yeah, we did a big video, if you will, for Backseats, and then we did kind of an acoustic stripped down video for Would Have Left Me Too. Okay, so there is a video out there. Is that all on the YouTube stuff? Yeah, of course. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Yeah, it's on YouTube. You can go to the website, ryangriffin.com. But Would Have Left Me Too is, I love that people, because like you said, it's been on like Twitter feed and Facebook and whatnot, that people have kind of compared it to, the vocal stylings and whatnot, and even like just the content of the song, to like a Keith Urban vibe. And that, the first time I read that, I was so excited. I was like, yes! Yeah. Well, I think it's a good thing. I think it's something that should be, a compliment. And, people are putting you up in that bracket. You know what I mean? And that's amazing. He's nobody to sneeze at, I know. And it's one of those things where it's like, if y'all were comparing me to like a bad artist, well, I might get my feelings hurt. But you're comparing me to like one of the best of all time. So I'm definitely going to take that and run with it. Yeah. So now you said that Backseats and Burnt CDs was the one you didn't write. So this is one that you wrote. I Would Have Left Me Too. I did. I wrote it about 4 years ago, maybe even 5 now. Okay. And it was about, music is so therapeutic, and it's really cool to be able to do it for a living and to write songs. And this was just one of those moments in life. It was a huge learning moment for me, and this was, prior to meeting my wife, and it was kind of the girl that set me up to meet my wife, because it was the broken road that led me straight to her kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Well, now you're doing Rascal Flatts. Now you're really touching on my heartstrings, because I love Rascal Flatts. That song was such a huge song for me as well. But it was very inspirational it's what kind of inspired the song. Just being honest enough and vulnerable enough to kind of just dive into it. And when we were writing the song, and so it was myself and Lisa Carver, we were randomly set up through our publishers, didn't know each other, never met her before, she'd never met me, and so we get in the room, and that's kind of one of the cool things, and one of the can be very, very awkward things about writing, is that you are meeting, it's like speed dating. You're literally sitting in a room with a stranger for 4 to 6 hours every day, and not every day it's a stranger, because you start to get your crew, but those days where it's somebody you don't know, and then you write a song like I Would Have Left Me Too, and you're pouring your heart out, because that's just what you are, if you're where you are in life, and or where I was at the time. And so Lisa Carver and I were sitting down, and she had like I always say she had her little like hippie incense burning, because it was so funny to me. She had like this velvet couch when I walked in, and hippie incense burning, and it's just like she had the whole like mood set for us. And I pulled out my computer, and I'm sitting there, and I'm about to type it all up, start typing on the computer, and she goes, "What are you doing with that thing?" Like, I'm going to write a song? She goes, "Put that away." And she hands me a legal pad. And so literally we sat there on like a yellow legal pad. Her and I both had one, and wrote the song that way. And it was one of the first, and honestly one of the only times I've ever written a song with pen to paper. I should probably do it more often, being that we got a good one. But there were notes all up in the margins, scratched out, and, there are tears on the page, literally. And it was just one of those things where she was going through, like, the universe kind of put us together at the perfect moment, because she was going through a breakup and a broken heart and regret. I was living in regret and broken, and trying to pick up the pieces, and it was just the perfect storm. And so I came in with this idea, because I was sitting there thinking about it. And I was like, oh yeah, I get it. I would have left me too.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of had this full circle revelation, this moment, and that was kind of when all the healing started for both of us, was when we could put it all out on paper, get it all out in the room and speak it, And so it was very much that. Like, it's a very true story. It's, I feel like so many people can relate to that, because it's just being human,
mm-hmm.
in a lot of ways. And
mm-hmm.
so that song, it's funny because I never really thought that song would ever hear the light of day. I always just thought it was kind of our thing, like
mm-hmm.
Lisa and I, our story for that moment in life. And then it got to a point where it was like everybody started being affected by it who heard it in town.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, this song obviously needs to be heard.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's something that I think when people are listening to it, if they are in a situation, it's kind of like, it's almost like, dude, take responsibility for maybe treating somebody like crap. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
yeah, for sure.
If even if the listener doesn't want to admit it to someone sitting next to them or whoever, if they hear it, it's like, you know what? I need to at least admit this to myself, because I'm the person who, should have been taken out of the situation because it was me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And everybody relates to it differently. Like, my situation wasn't necessarily like one person treated each other or, one another really poorly. It was just like you didn't show up to the relationship.
Right.
You didn't give the other person what they needed.
Sure.
And so it's like, everybody has their story, and it's really cool. I had one lady, when the song first came out a couple months ago, a lady Facebooked me privately, and she just basically said, she's like, thank you so much for this song. It's the closure that I've needed for years to get over a past relationship. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh man, that's powerful, Mm-hmm. To provide somebody with closure through music is unreal. Mm-hmm. So,
well, that's cool. And I think, this is so far some of the music that I've heard coming from you is right. I mean, and you say it yourself, you can't write anything unless you experience it, even if people may not relate to it in the same exact way that you did. The fact of the matter is the feeling is there. You're touching people to feel. And I think that's just, that in itself is a huge compliment on any song.
I love that you just said that, because one of the things that I've said for a long time, in multiple interviews too, is that at the end of the day, I just want to make people feel something.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise out there, and it's like, I just want to cut through the noise. I want to give people a break. I want them to just space out for a little bit, and I want them to kind of feel something, right. Whether it's happy or sad or, whatever. And, I feel like that's my job, right, as an artist and as a songwriter, is to make you feel something. So I love that you said that.
Yeah.
That's great.
And I think that's what it's supposed to do. And like you said, there, it's a lot of noise. Life is so crazy now, and you just get inundated. You're just like, it's almost like overload of sound and screaming and this and that and the news and, what's going on in the White House and who shot who and road rage and all that. If people can find a moment to have peace and separate themselves from all of that and just feel one single thing instead of being bombarded 24/7. I mean, and I think that's what shows need to do. I think you're right. I think that's what shows need to do. I think that what performers need to do that. If people can just step out of that box for an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever, and just focus in on what they're feeling at that moment and relate to it and shed maybe a little bit of skin and walk out of there maybe just a little bit refreshed or ready to get bombarded again by life. That's huge. That's huge for any artist.
I agree. It is. That should be the goal. And I kind of had that epiphany a couple of years ago when I was kind of always knew that. but it didn't really sink in until I went to a Kenny Chesney show.
Uh-huh.
I went to a Chesney show in Kansas City at a stadium, and there were 60-something thousand people there. And they were all there to just escape for 2 or 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
You know, to enjoy themselves and escape for a little while. And I just thought that was such a cool thing, you know?
Yeah.
We can provide that as artists and entertainers.
Yeah, and I think you're doing that with your music. So I think, you know, your fan base will grow because people are going to feel what you're doing. You know, for however long that may take for you to be able to, you know, go from a 20 people in a room to 2,000 people in a room to that 60, 70, 80, whatever thousand venue.
Yeah.
You know,
I like where your head's at.
You know, it's going to be your job, though, like you said, to be able to take those 60,000 people and give them peace for those few hours, like those big guys, like those guys can do, and they do it so well, you know.
Amen. Yeah, they do.
So
make it look easy.
at the end of the interview here, I don't want to hold you too much longer, but at the end of the interview, I want to play that one, and I just think people really need to listen to it. And if all they do for a few minutes is listen to that song, I would have left me too. I mean, I really think that's a great song, and you can take from it what you need to, you can take from it what you want to, you know, or you can just say, yeah, it's a great song, you know, whatever it does for you. I really like that one.
Sure. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That one's, you know, really near and dear to my heart. So
that one's very special. I'm gonna play one more song at the end of the show, just so you know. The whole show gets recorded here today, Ryan, and then this coming Sunday we'll play the whole show back. And I like to play a song at the end of my show to remind people that if they missed the interview with Ryan Griffin and missed some of the music, I play another song to give them a taste, so that people can, and you can tell your fans too, if they missed the interview today, they can listen in on Sunday and catch the whole thing.
Awesome.
The naming rights to the EP, this is a little bit different. This one here, it's a little bit more upbeat. It's a little bit more fun. Why don't you tell us about Sake of the Summer?
Yeah, Sake of the Summer, like you said, it's the title track. I was living in like Maroon 5 land. I always have a muse. Like each month I kind of have like my artist that's my muse, and it's not always country. Typically it's not, because I'm like trying to pull other influences in. And this was my Maroon 5 stage, and you can definitely hear it in Sake of the Summer, just in the track, and it leans a little bit more to the pop R&B side of things, of, you know, kind of what I do. And it is what it is. It's a summer song that has that nostalgic feel, kind of vein running through it. And it's, you know, like that back in high school, had a summer fling for 3 months, you know, and it wasn't necessarily love, you know, but it was, nobody wants to show up to a party alone.
Right.
You know, that's the lines in the chorus. And so you kind of, you know, have your girl that you have on your arm walking into a party, or vice versa, you know, and that's kind of what this song is about. It's about lighthearted kind of summer fling.
And I think it's a great song too. It's a little bit more upbeat than the other two we talked about.
For sure, yeah. It's the tempo of the EP for sure.
Yeah. And so it's the title track also. So you guys want to be looking for Sake of the Summer EP from Ryan Griffin. And again, it's on the electronic medias, not necessarily in hard copy form right now. So you guys need to go to the Spotify and what do you want? iTunes, you said it was on?
Yeah, go buy it on iTunes.
iTunes.
Listen to it all day.
And there you go. And you can find this guy easy enough by going to Ryan Griffin. Now that's RYAN, and it's GRIFFIN.com. It's really quite that simple. Ryan, Are you all over the social medias? Can people reach out to you via some social medias?
Yeah, of course. You know, Facebook, Twitter, Insta. So it's Ryan Griffin Live or Ryan Griffin Music on Facebook. So yeah, check me out. Come say hi and let me know what you think about the EP and this interview, and tell me if I did a good job.
Well, and when they are checking out your website, they can get all the links from it right there. They can also see the video for Backseats and Burnt CDs. They can see that. They can get little glimpses of what the rest of the EP sounds like, and they can also check out your show listing of where you're going to be, when you're going to be in the Garden State there, and some other places if they're listening to us via the internet or their iPhone, Android devices right now, so they can take a look at that to see if it's close to their hometown. Are you going to be adding dates to that for 2017?
Yeah, so we have just kind of during the fall festival season or during the summer festival season, we have, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 dates, something like that coming up that are continually being added. But then during fall and into winter, we actually are going on tour and doing like a club tour. So that'll be announced here soon, and we'll definitely be coming somewhere near everybody because it's going to be coast to coast.
Okay.
So it'll be a lot of fun.
Oh, awesome. Well, just keep Pennsylvania, the east side of Pennsylvania in mind while you're doing that. We'd love to see you.
Do. Sure. I'm sure we'll be hitting somewhere around there because there's going to be I think it's 35 days, something like that.
Okay. Awesome.
For the tour. So we'll be all over the place. It'll be great.
Well, I one last thing before I can cut you loose here real quick, Ryan. What can your fans be looking for? I know you just mentioned about that tour, but what's something that's maybe a wink, wink, nudge, nudge that they can kind of be looking for on your social medias and your website that might get them excited?
Yeah, I think one of the coolest things is new music. Okay. So new music's going to be coming here in the next probably 2 months or so. I'm always if you're on Insta and following me on stories and stuff like that, I'm always sharing what I'm writing that day typically.
Okay.
So you kind of get a preview, a sample of what I'm writing, So that would be my wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Okay, good. All right, it's good stuff. You guys need to check him out. We're going to say goodbye to Ryan in just a minute, but remember, it's The Sake of the Summer. Find it on iTunes. It's a 5-tune EP. Download it for the guy, and you can get all the great music that we've been talking about, plus 2 other cuts that are on there. And then check out his tour schedule and keep an eye open for that club schedule that's going to be coming his way on, of course, his website and his social medias, his Instagram. Check this guy out. Ryan, you have been a sweetheart of a guy. Love your music. I'm wishing you all the best, and I hope someday to see you. But if you've got something new and exciting going on, even if it's a phone interview, have somebody get in touch with me, and we'll get you back on the schedule.
Will do. Thank you, Kelsea. I appreciate it. And yeah, please come out and see me. Check out the website and come up and say hi.
All right, my man. I'm going to cut you loose. Take care, and good luck with everything, and hope to stay in touch with me.
Thank you so much. Will do. See you later.